Yo, it's your boy Nitty Costa.
It's your girl Katniss.
And I'm the one and only Tay Jordan.
And together we are
the Nitty Gritty.
It's Tim Wise. You're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Everybody, this is Stephen Powell. You're now watching the Nitty Gritty Show. Check it out.
Hey, my name is Sherman Moss, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Hi, I'm Pastor Grant Thompson, a.k.a. G. Ainsworth, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Hey, I'm Anthony White, and this is the Nitty Gritty Show.
Yeah. Man, this is Jay Thompson. You're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
This is Max Powers, and you are watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
My name is Jay Grant Thompson, and guess what? You're in tune to the Nitty Gritty Show.
I'm Will Jawando, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Hey, my name is Mitch Holmes, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
This is Adeline Sanders. Go watch the Nitty Gritty Show.
This is Pastor Rob, and you're on the Nitty Gritty Show.
I'm Ray Pittman, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Hey, this is Shondy, 4-4, and you're watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Benny Black, and you are watching the Nitty Gritty Show.
It's time for the Nitty Gritty. Conversations be real live. It's time for the Nitty Gritty. The revolution's not televised. It's time for the Nitty Gritty. Reaching out to your conscious mind. It's time for the Nitty Gritty. More than talking, we're taking action. It's time for the Nitty Gritty. What's up? What's going on, world? What's going on, Facebook? Everybody catching us live on listenvisionlive.com. It's your boy, Jay DeCosta.
It's your girl Katniss.
The one and only Tay Jordan can't be here, but you with us in spirit, boo, and together we are
The
the
Nitty
Nitty
Gritty.
Gritty. Look, got a great show lined up for you guys today. We have in the building today Mr. Lord Sanders. We're going to be having a conversation around feeding those in need, and might even get into a little bit of conversation around homelessness as well, because we see that the two kind of go hand in hand. So looking forward to this conversation. Lawrence Sanders here is the executive director of Outcast Food Network. Also working at a leading telecommunications company right now as well. So he's got his hands in corporate America out there. Also ministry executive at the City of Abraham Church and Ministries. So definitely doing this thing in the community. You're also a Baltimore native as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Baltimore in here representing.
Absolutely.
Actually, we're getting a lot of representation for Baltimore because you're here today. And then we also have Kelly Fox, who's running in 43rd, going to be here next Sunday.
Okay.
So Baltimore is showing a lot of love down here in the D.C. area today, representing the DMV.
By all means. Absolutely.
Yeah. So really excited to have you on. Thanks for reaching out, being able to have that conversation. I've been knowing you for a while, but I'm really excited about this new work. Well, not really new work. You've been doing a lot of stuff like this.
Yes.
But just taking it to this level at how you're going to be helping.
Absolutely.
Really excited about what you're doing, brother. So happy that you're here on the Nitty Gritty Show.
We're glad to be here.
Yeah, so we're going to get more into that, of course. But before we get there, we always got to do two things. We got to give out these to hell withs, and we also got to give some blessings, right? Quick to hell withs. And actually, the timing, I shouldn't say the timing couldn't have been better because it's not a good thing that this is happening, but the fact that this happened during a time when we were having you on. In California, it is illegal to feed the homeless. There was actually a video that went viral over the last week and a half where you seen some police officers actually harassing people who were trying to feed those in need. And they were saying like, hey, you keep on doing it, I'm gonna have to arrest you, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So yeah, it's like, and I guess it's a California law, and I guess it's not all of California. For when I was trying to do my research, I guess it's a certain area. I think that area happens to be more so affluent. So the thought process from some of the debates I was looking at was that when you feed people in those areas, then they won't stay and leave. They're making the property value go down. So pretty much, I got to give it a to hell with, because that means someone is more concerned with their property value than they are the well-being of people. And I could probably tell you that in these affluent areas like that in California, most of them probably own dogs, and these dogs probably get treated like, better than obviously the humans are, but they're more concerned about their wealth and their property value than the needs of other humans. That's the world we live in. And people are actually being harassed. Hey, you keep doing that, you're going to go to jail. Stop feeding them.
But
That's crazy.
What's also crazy is that if you know Hollywood Boulevard, there's like a whole bunch of homeless people and prostitutes and strippers. But then as soon as the Grammys come on, they clean it up. They spray down the pavement, put the red carpet out. I mean, it's literally night and day shocking to me.
Yeah, so I mean, gotta give that to hell with because that's just crazy. And then the timing couldn't be better having Mr. Lawrence Sanders on. And then also gotta give it to hell with to anyone who will pander to a group for money but does not exhibit the lifestyle that they're advocating for. Katrina's giving me a look because she knows where this is going. This is really to like the Derek Jacksons of the world, but also the Dr. Umar Johnsons. Anybody, some of these ministries you hear about that, they claim they care about people, but then, the Reverend's rocking Louis Vuitton, but then majority of his congregation is broke. Now, we know, it's nothing wrong with people doing well in the church. I got no problem with that. But then, you seen these small congregations where the pastor got a Rolls Royce, and if the church is hurting them, well, that's not cool. So they get grouped into that as well. We know that's not all churches. We don't see that at Reed Temple. And I'm pretty sure you guys don't have that going on at your church, so. But we know there's some out there, and they're a minute few, but you got to call them out. And this really was spurned. We're going to talk about this more in future episodes, but Derek Jackson, I guess it came out that his lifestyle doesn't necessarily represent what he's pandering to or what he's trying to sell. He's talking about black women being uplifted, but then he ain't checking for the sisters in his personal time. So, and I think that's kind of crazy. So you'll take their money, but, you're not actually out here trying to find a sister to be with. But he up there telling men that, hey, single moms is for real men, all of that. But the only single moms you kicking it with are white. So I'm just saying, don't be pandering to my sisters, but then you ain't trying to hook up with a sister, or at least, that's not what the facts are stating. So I'm giving it to hell with that, because don't pander to a community, and that goes for anybody out there. Don't pander to a community advocating for them to be better, but then you're not actually making it better, or your lifestyle doesn't exude one that says you want this to be better. I'm definitely not perfect. I got my flaws, but I'm not going to advocate. The things that I advocate for, I try to live in my personal life. I believe in voting, so I vote. I believe in loving my community, so I do the best I can to love my community. I won't brag about the things I do in my community. I feel like my blessing comes from on high, so I don't got to brag about it, but you try to live a lifestyle that represents what you say you're about. I think that's fair, right? Yeah, so to hell with that. We'll talk about Derek Jackson more. It's coming. Blessings to Bruno Mars, Childish Gambino, CeCe Winans. Looks like they've already all got awards so far with the Grammys. As y'all know, this is actually currently going on right now. Right now. So shout out to them. Hopefully, I would like to see 444 get Best Rap Album because of the messages within it. So that would be dope. Daniel Caesar got beat out in his category to Childish Gambino. So, it happened, but I'm a big fan of his. So we'll see where the night goes, but I am hoping that 444 gets some love during the Grammys. Any Grammy hopes for you guys tonight? Man, anybody you pulling for?
I'm with you. 444. I'm pulling
right.
for Jay.
Yeah, that's grown man rap music.
I want 444, but I really do want SZA to get something, because knowing her story and how hard she worked to even get to this point in her career, she's actually been out for a while, but nobody really took notice. This was the first album where it became popular, and The Weeknd is a very popular song, hence all the covers on YouTube.
Yeah, and the thing about it, Weeknd wasn't even a single on the album. It's just that it got so much radio play, and the fans liked it so much, it got treated as a single. But it wasn't actually designed to be a single, so that's dope. And then also, I'm seeing a lot of categories. She got nominated a lot, but a lot of categories, I think she's getting beat out by Bruno Mars and Childish Gambino. They seem to be running in the same category. Same thing with Cardi B. So we'll see how that goes, because Kendrick Lamar is beating out a lot of people too. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. He's beating out a lot of people. So yeah, so we'll see where the night goes. I'm pretty sure we'll be hearing more about it even after the show. And then last, shout out to all my NFL boycotters who are still standing strong out there. Some folks are already watching the games, and I get it, and some folks weren't boycotting, and that was cool too. But for those that ran their mouth and actually walked the walk, said, I'm not going to watch it for the rest of the year, and really felt that way, kept on doing it, shout out to y'all. Because I know it's been hard. I hear about people talking about it at work, the Eagles. I guess it's the Eagles and the Patriots going.
No, it's not hard for me. It's not hard at all, because the fact of the matter is these people call the teams, they call them their owners. I don't like that name. Why can't they just be, I don't like when it's something referred to as an owner.
Yeah, why can't they just be the CEO, president?
And then also the fact that we know that people are literally destroying their bodies and getting concussions, and they're doing nothing for it. And I don't want to keep going on, but how we keep passing these SC players into the NFL and they can't read, neither here nor there. It's just a lot of intricate things that really bother me about the NFL. So no, it's easy for me to boycott.
Yeah, so definitely a lot of different things there. So, but shout out to the folks that stayed in it, especially for the original reason. Kaepernick, trying to protest against police brutality and why he was kneeling for the flag. So shout out to those that stuck with their guns and decided to go through the whole season. If that wasn't for you, hey, I hope your team is there having a good time. I know my brothers are Eagles fans, so they're ecstatic. So yeah, nice. But anyways, we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. I do have a video we're going to play. Jay, if you could play, there's a video here about various myths and facts about being homeless. A lot of stuff that people don't know. And I got a second video I'm going to play later on in the show. But I wanted to play this one because there's a lot of people just assume, like, oh, if you can't feed your family this, or if you're homeless this. And you guys are knowing from being, like, boots on the ground and working with it, you know that's not the case.
Not at all.
So I want to play this first video, and then we're going to talk more about Outcast Food Network and the work you guys doing and just, get down to it. So, Jay, rock that first video for me, sir. That video too, because one of the things that it ends on is talking about, what can we do to help with all the different issues. And this is talking about homelessness, but we know that goes hand in hand with food. And one of the key things they brought out there, and Lawrence, I got some questions for you as a result. There's also a misconception that, the homeless are the ones, or the people in need of things are the ones who are dangerous. They'll rob you. But we find that they're normally not the perpetrators, but normally they're the victims of various crimes. Also, there's this thought process that a lot of them don't work, but they don't realize a lot of them are working. They're just going through a hard time. And a lot of people just assume that it's just men, but actually women and children are on the rise with homelessness and also being in need of food in this country. So, there's a lot of misconceptions that people don't want to give to, and it's just wrong. So, and we've talked about this already, but just if you can just tell, our viewers, why you started Outcast Food Network and just some of the work you guys doing, and that's kind of like the brainchild and stuff behind that.
Sure. So it is certainly my passion, my passion and my wife's passion to feed the homeless.
Got your wife here with you today.
My wife is here as for support, absolutely. So I didn't grow up homeless. I was never homeless. However, my family did get put out about 4 times when I was a kid. But I did grow up hungry. So there were times when I ate in soup kitchens in Baltimore City at Our Daily Bread. So it's my calling, it's my mission to ensure that I give back to those folks because I grew up that way.
Wow. And with Outcast Food Network, is this something that started like through the church? Is this something that you partnered with your church to get started? Or is this was something that you was like, you know what, we're just you and your wife sat down one day and said, look, this is what we're going to do? So, because I'm always curious how people decide to say, like, it's one thing to be passionate about it, but then, people are passionate about a lot of things, and the most they do is like on Facebook. But you actually out there in the community, like feeding people, know?
Yes.
So like, what was it that you was like, you know what, like, not only am I gonna be passionate about it, I'm gonna really do something. You guys got an actual 501c. You know, this ain't just y'all ain't just someone with an Instagram page. Y'all really out here. Yeah,
absolutely. So for over 20 years, my wife and I have been doing it on our own. It just used to be us, a couple of family members, our children. Then we did bring the church in. We would partner with the church, and the church has been doing their own mission ministries. So we partner with the church. However, this year, beginning of this year, man, God just said, go do it, right? And I literally said, really? And, it continued to press on my heart. I talked to my wife about it. And again, as I said, that's my mission. So it's something that we have to do.
Nice. So one thing that I was looking at, because, I mean, you guys have a pretty extensive pamphlet, and I know we has talked before, a lot of times people wonder why, why are there groups that's focused on homelessness? Why are there groups focused on food? And there's a lot of stats behind the food. So, why pick food? Because I know, I guess the larger picture, I guess eventually you will affect homelessness as well. But the why food? Like what's some of the things that you see families dealing with when they're not properly fed?
Okay. So one, of course, chose food because of my background. But so families that don't get enough nourishment, the children have higher rates of mental issues, higher rates of behavioral issues, and families that don't eat together, right? They say that families eat together, stay together. So families that don't eat together, they just have more family dysfunction.
Wow.
And with the homelessness, and you said the kids have mental health issues, do you guys provide access services to any kind of people who help people with counseling with mental health issues?
So the one thing that we do, so we're out there feeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we want to, we're kind of two-pronged. We give them food, and we bring forth a job readiness program.
Okay.
Now, when you look at the other services in the future, we are looking forward to, providing these wraparound services that'll help, all-inclusive services. But right now, all we do is we pass out a pamphlet with listings where they can go. Other organizations that we're aware of. And like on yesterday, we encountered a young lady that she's in transitional housing. Mm-hmm. She has a 5-year-old daughter that has special needs, and we prayed with her. She said, I'm praying for a home. We know of a particular organization that could help her get a new home. So we passed that information on to her.
That's wonderful.
And see, that's awesome too. Like, I feel like sometimes so many people, I think they just get into it for the wrong reasons, and I don't think that's the case here at all, because you guys are not trying to say, if it ain't Outcast Food Network, it's not happening. Partnership is we were just talking about this on the way up here. Mm-hmm. Partnership is so key and vital in really helping our communities, and I think that's really cool that, you guys are doing your job, but you don't feel like, hey, just because we're doing our thing, we can't partner with someone else. Like, it's not about one group getting all the shine.
No.
And I think that's cool that OFN, if you don't mind me using the acronym.
Absolutely.
I think that's cool that OFN will actually direct people to other programs, because there's a lot of great work. I think you were telling me the other day that when the cities are looking to put out grants, a lot of times the cities don't know how to handle that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like if you can elaborate a little bit more about that, like how cities are looking for programs to give money to.
Oh, absolutely. So the one grant in particular that Juan mentioned, so it was just an open grant. Many grants are restricted to length of time, particular program, and a certain monetary value. This grant was wide open. So the theory was that the funders for the grant were looking for folks to provide programming, and they had since they did not put a cap on the money, that they just had a bunch of it. So we have most certainly put in our grant requests, and we're waiting to hear and praying for sure for favor.
And people need to take advantage of that, especially groups like yourselves that are doing that, because, obviously Baltimore has gone through a lot. I mean, even this year with the heating crisis that they were having in the schools, and there's a lot of answers. And I think sometimes so many of us are waiting for our government to do stuff for us, or we're waiting for, like, I think sometimes people looked at Obama like they were electing a superhero into office. He's just gonna come in here and fix everything by himself. But we forget that, hey, look, we got to follow up with more voting. We got to follow up with, challenging our politicians to do their job. But then also we got to follow up by just policing our own or helping our own. Yes. We create programs like OFN or support programs like OFN. And then when the OFNs in the world are created, it's nice to see you guys supporting one another to get the job done. You're not complaining. You're not sitting here and saying, oh, well, all the politicians in Baltimore are corrupt. Because Baltimore's issues are the same as Detroit and everywhere else.
Sure.
But I like the fact that it's nice to see a brother that just say, you know what, this is what I dealt with. This is passing it to me. I'm not waiting for Baltimore to fix itself. Yeah, I'm on the vote. Yeah, I know you're doing your part. But it's like, you know what, I'm going to go out into the streets and do what I need to. And that's cool. You got 2 sons, and you've been training them up in the same way.
Yes. So as I mentioned earlier, over 20 years ago, my sons are 25 and 22. My youngest is soon to be 23, and as little as 5 to 8 years old, we had him out there actually approaching folks that were laying on grates, right? And my wife used to say, "What are you doing? Why would you send them out there?" And I felt like it's important that they experience that hands-on. So, and it's been great, and they are working the business with us right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is awesome. I have a question. With the research that you've done in Baltimore, what are some common themes as to why people may experience homelessness? Is it due to lack of job opportunity? Have you found that maybe the laws in Baltimore are restrictive, whereas it's hard to get certain kinds of work? Do people communicate the reasons why they're homeless? What kind of common themes have you experienced when you're working with people?
So yes, so we have gotten information from the folks that we service, because we do solicit video testimonials. So some of the reasons, one is addiction. Right, okay. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, burn bridges. Right, so they're in a tough spot, but they burn some bridges with the family, and then. But that doesn't really matter. So I hear people. I shared with Juan recently. So folks will say, "Well, they're out there, and it's their fault." Well, that doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what put them out there. Mm-hmm. However, it's our job to go out and service them.
Yeah, because I think they said one of the stats in that video was that, you know, people who are homeless, and I think this would be the same even for, like, you know, any kind of food disparity. The thought process is that people who are homeless or going through things want to be out there, but that's not true. I think the stat was less than 6% of those who are homeless or, you know, dealing with, you know, hunger or even just trying to find work. Less than 6% of them actually want to be in that situation. And then we always think it's drugs. But then just quoting another stat from the video we played, only 1 in 4, it seems, actually has alcoholism issues or drug issues. And a lot of them are educated, too. Like, they have high school degrees. Many of them have actually gone to college or even attended further graduate study. But they're still living one paycheck away from just being, I can't eat this week, or we're going to have to, like, tail back a little bit.
Oh, no.
No, I was just going to say one other issue that I did not mention is mental health, right? Mental challenges. So many times those folks, things that we take for granted, writing a check, applying for a job, because of their mental challenges, they're unable to do those things, and it has put them out on the streets.
I can see that. I am also curious too. I don't know for sure, but it does seem like from a historical standpoint that when you look at like the 60s, when we were more united, it didn't seem like it was as much homelessness, maybe because we were more inclined to take somebody in, help them out, help one another. Do you feel like today with this capitalist society that the mindset is about me and my family and you fend for yourself, and that could be a contributing factor as to why there may be more homelessness apparent? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it does seem that way.
I agree. Man, back then it seemed to be more family oriented, right? Not only that, back then it seemed that folks thought this particular way. I am my brother's keeper, right? Wow. Mm-hmm. The way what we think though, and we don't think only we're our brother's keeper. We believe we are our brother, right? Because you mentioned some of us, right, are just a couple of paychecks away, right? Mm-hmm. So not only are we our brother, we don't look at the people we service and say, well, it's them. Mm-hmm. We're family, right? And it's our job to go out and do what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I think, you know, I always say this all the time on the show, and it's a continuing theme for me, but I'm gonna keep on saying it. I just like, even how you see things propagated in the media, like, you know, if you think about what's going on by Marvin Gaye or some of the messages in Earth, Wind and Fire about how we were lifting each other up in that time frame versus the music now, and I think that's why 444 is such a dope album, because the transition from Jay-Z bragging about what he got and how everybody else is lame in comparison to him. Like, your Range Rover is not as dope as mine. Your money is not as dope. Like, I'm flying private. You still in coach. And for him to go from that to saying, wow, you know, if I was to drink a vodka, why would I not drink Ciroc? Because I know Puffy owns it. He's a man in the community. And I think that's what's so key is that changing the mindset. And I feel like if you can have someone like a Jay-Z who was really arrogant at one point, like it's almost like, yeah, he's dope, but you almost want to, I think people wanted to cheer against him because he came out so braggadocious about his whole message. And I think how that ties back into this subject is I think a lot of us have to go through that paradigm shift. And I think media plays its play, but then I think we need to be conscious of that and change how we think about one another because it is a very, selfish environment we live in. Everybody is like, man, you got to do for you. I hear parents that say, oh, yeah, I want my kids to struggle. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but you struggle. Why would you want that for your kids? But a lot of people in our community say, oh, yeah, I want them to struggle so they can learn. But is that really helpful? Because we just had a conversation last week where they said that 69% of black children are going to more than likely be more poor or not as well off as their parents. And that's scary, especially when we're talking about food disparities.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, well, this is something that we have to really look into because I don't want my children living in food disparity, I think one of the stats you have out there is like 7 months out of the year.
Yes. So basically, it's being what we call food insecure. So in Baltimore City, there's 750,000 people who are food insecure. What that means is that at any given time during any month, these folks go without eating. They just don't have enough money, right? This is the working poor. Some are homeless, but not all people that we feed are homeless. It's roughly 50%. 50% of the people that we service are homeless. The other 50% are working poor, right? So we've got to work toward increasing wages, giving access to better jobs, and so forth.
And what is the demographic of these individuals that you see on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, I will say that it's a mix of races, but it is a high percentage of African Americans.
And I do know that nationwide, I think there's just as many white, if not more, dealing with it. But I mean, obviously, when you're talking about a city like Baltimore, and I think a lot of your urban cities, because systematically our things have been designed to push, like redlining and all that, pushing blacks into a certain environment. It doesn't surprise me that in places like Baltimore or Philly or Detroit, that most of those recipients are going to be black.
I have a question for the both of you guys regarding homelessness and how we look at the working class and poor. To me, it seems like if we know city to city, we know that homelessness exists and we know that people need services. Why is it that we're always saving other countries, but we don't save people in our own backyard? I'm opening the question out to the floor. Not saying that we shouldn't help people, but we should help. We have enough money in this country to help our people and others, but why does it seem like we are always the first ones to let's go over to these countries and help, but then we just forget about the people who live here? Even in D.C., there's a lot of homeless people, and this is the nation's capital. It just seems strange to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it is important, so the United States is the leader of the free world, right? So it is important that we take that leadership role, but not at the behest of the people that live here, right? It is very, very important that the services are provided in the homeland.
Yeah, and then do you feel like there's a lot of opportunity for your organizations out there to actually do something in the city, or do you think enough people are really tapping in to that resource that is available?
Yes. So let's just say we've surrounded ourselves with some great professionals. My business mentor, other organizations, grant writers. So we are certainly, there are a lot of folks tapping in, but you got to go get it, right? So I think one of the main things is, as I said, surrounding ourselves with great professionals. But as my wife mentioned earlier today, she said, that's all you think about is business, right? So this movement never sleeps, right? So opportunities arise quickly, and so we've got to be prepared to do the work.
Wow. Now, I want to play a quick video because I know we kind of talked about like how people get there, and you're right. I don't think it really matters that people get there, but I think there's something that just for those watching, we have a lot of politicians that tune into this show. It just questions the thought of what can we do as a people when we're looking to volunteer and all that, like things we should be cognizant of before we make a judgment or the reasons why we may not help or give money. Jay, can you play that other video for me that we had?
It was either run completely out of money with the rent going up again or live in my truck. I find a restroom, comb my hair, brush my teeth, wash my face. I have a suit to make people more willing to speak with you, hire you. So here I am.
In large cities such as Los Angeles, the homeless population is growing. And while many factors contribute to homelessness, one major cause often goes overlooked: the crazy cost of rent.
Couldn't afford to pay the rent. It kept going up, $700, $1,500. Now these places are $2,000, $3,000. There's nothing else to do.
Few people have seen this problem as directly as the Union Rescue Mission CEO, Andy Bales.
Now, there is an absolute correlation between rising rents and homelessness.
In Los Angeles, if rent goes up by just 5%, 2,000 more people will experience homelessness. And if it goes up that much in New York, that's 3,000 more people who will be on the streets.
I know families that live in their vehicles and they're working.
For the first time in our history, homeless women and children far outnumber men, especially single women, just absolutely exploded.
It shouldn't be that way.
$500,000 people in LA are a half a paycheck away from losing their home. It's the worst man-made disaster in the United States.
How do we prevent more people from winding up on the streets because of rising rents?
We need to take FEMA-like all-out emergency steps. We need an approach to building innovative housing that people can afford.
The best thing you can do is help other people. There's more joy in giving.
And I like that video right there because one of the things that it talks about or speaks to is the fact that, you know, this guy, one of the main guys in that video, he's in a situation where he's applying for jobs. He has a suit, gym membership. You know, he's making do with what he has to try to get by. And, you know, he's not being a bummer or anything. He's just having a hard go at it because financially the money's not there. And, you know, that was a crazy statistic that, you know, the price of housing, you know, is going up like 17%. But then at the same time, you have rates of like income and wages is like stagnant, you know, and it's not matching that flow of money is going out. And I think that's definitely probably an issue around here. It's expensive to live in the DMV. It really is very expensive. And then to find a place that's affordable, we know folks that live way out in Pennsylvania or West Virginia just to work for large companies in the area, so that way they're making their money balance out. But yeah, and people assume when you're in corporate America, oh yeah, that means you're doing all right. You got this X amount of dollars coming in, you've made it. But I think people don't realize, like they were saying, like there's people in LA, but we see this in DC, Baltimore. People are literally one paycheck away from being homeless. So if they're one paycheck away of not having a roof over their head, you know they're not eating properly.
Absolutely. And that's part of, again, the food insecure population. So these folks are working, but they just don't have enough money to cover. So I've got to pay rent. I might have to pay prescriptions. I might have to pay for daycare. So by the 20th of the month, I don't have food. And literally, as we are soliciting these testimonies, that's what they're telling us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the fact that you guys said, you know, daycare, and then they were even saying at one point that as the rent was rising, that's 2,000 more people that will be homeless. That's 3,000 more people that's going to be homeless. So for someone like myself who's young adult, you know, I see that people who have kids, you know, that can affect how finance, you know, plays out in someone's life. How many people do you come into the shelter that you find are single moms or people who can't afford food for their entire family? Like I've heard stories of people saying, well, mom went without, but we had food to eat. For example, the basketball player, Kevin Durant. Do you remember when he got that speech and he said, Mom, you're the real MVP?
Yes.
And he goes through talking about the moments where they didn't have anything to eat, but their mom made sure they had food, but she didn't have anything. How many scenarios can you account where people are experiencing things like such?
Wow.
So it is, there are quite a few families. I know in the United States, there's 17.5 million families who are food insecure. So we know that. Personally, I see a small percentage of that, you know, families walking in, fathers or mothers with children. The primary population that I see are males. are males. There are some females, but primarily males.
Well, that's good that you cleared that up for us, because the way people would have you seem, it seems like it's always women are homeless, children are suffering. We don't really ever hear too much about men being homeless. So that's good that you were able to clear that statistic up for us.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, this, you just think about food. It's like, the school system is not properly feeding kids, or you hear about the nourishment programs are not really up to snuff. So then it's just really sad when you think about the fact that these kids are home. The mom and dad just don't have the money. Not that they don't have the desire to feed them properly, but they don't have the money to feed them. And then they're going to the school system, and then they're not being really fed. Those meals are not going to fill up a belly, And then sometimes the food doesn't even look well prepared, or it just looks disgusting. So then who wants to eat that?
I'm curious, how much money, U.S. dollar, would it take per day to feed a family adequately? I don't know if you would know that.
Yeah, I don't know that particular statistic.
Okay.
However, we do share based on the budget of the food that we feed. So for every $50 that's donated, we're able to feed 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we're able to double. Also, you mentioned the children in the schools.
Mm-hmm.
So in Baltimore City, 1 in 3 children, that meal is their primary meal for the day. In Baltimore City.
Wow, so that one school lunch, 1 in 3, that's their primary meal for the whole day.
Possibly. So not absolutely their primary, but they may not have breakfast and they may not have dinner. So they go with 1 in 3 children go with in school that receive a lunch at school is missing a meal in Baltimore City.
And that's like crazy, because I mean, think about it, as a grown person, when you're at work, you get hangry. You need a protein bar, you need a snack, you got to run out to the vending machine. Yeah, that stuff is not healthy to eat, as Benny Black and Jonine Ford, who was on the show, would tell us. But at the same time, like, people need to eat, right? So imagine as a child, you're sitting in a stationary position for like 8 hours, and then that's your only main meal. So that means you went to bed hungry, you waking up hungry, and then the teachers are wondering why you acting out. But I think they're so focused on the fact that, oh yeah, these kids are just come from bad environments. Their parents don't care, and that's not always the case.
Well, I think we got to talk about the cycle, right? So mom and dad are working; they're part of this working class. So mom and dad are not home to really prepare a proper cooked, meal, or even be home to do homework because they got to work. They're literally living penny check to check. The kids are raising themselves; they don't have the food. So when they finally do get something to eat, mom and dad may buy them a McDonald's sandwich on the go because it was on the dollar menu. And I think it's unfortunate because it's like a lot of lifestyle, as far as quality of life is concerned, is attributable to money. Because that's how the American society has set up. Everything is attributable to money. In order for you to eat healthy requires money. In order for you to have a good job, you got to kind of, to some degree, invest in a degree or have some kind of contributing factor to make yourself marketable.
Absolutely.
And it's really unfortunate.
It is. One thing I'd like to share, and you mentioned the school-age children. So we've developed a program. It's called Future Steps. It's focused on early child development. Grades 1 through 3.
Nice.
And it's focused on educating them about some key issues around the dinner table. And that's how we bring the food piece in. So, one, we're looking at teaching them conflict resolution, helping them with their anger management, and then how to partner with their parents and school administrators to solve problems. So one thing we know about the statistics when it comes to families eating together. So first, I say the family that eats together stays together, right? But one statistic that I found out recently, that I learned recently, and this just blew me away. This blew me away. That when children eat with their parents, when they hear their parents talk, that conversation, that increases their vocabulary level more than reading does.
Wow.
Interesting.
That blew me away. That blew me away, and that told me that guess what? We're on the right track. We're on the right track.
Who would ever thought?
Yeah, so talking to kids actually will increase their vocabulary than reading.
Absolutely. And the other thing, so if you got older children, if they're eating dinner at the table, they're now home, and they're more likely to stay home rather than to leave out and, possibly get into trouble.
I mean, that makes sense because I know household I grew up in, my parents just didn't play, but we used to eat dinner at the dinner table. We eat dinner as a family, even when I'm home visiting, or if whenever I have my children with me, that's just how we do business. Everybody's gonna sit. I don't want no phones out. no TV on. We're just gonna sit dinner and eat as a family, and you talk. And that's actually a great time to talk to the kids. Like Wanda and Mary, that's like a great time talking with them. Is just when we're eating. Yes. You know, people are focusing. And then there's something about looking forward to a meal. Like when you're growing up, you know, 5, 6 o'clock every day, there's gonna be some food ready, and you ain't trying to miss, you know, mom cooking. And then plus, you know, you better be in the house before them street lights come on anyway.
Absolutely.
Right? But yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It really does.
And we have some checks and balances in there too. So they will go home. So they come and eat that night, learn those skills. They go home with a bag of groceries. Also, they go home with recipe cards. There's also a food dinner time challenge. So one night other than that night, they will have to then bring back some, when they come back the next week, they have to bring back some type of proof proving that they, pictures, video, whatever, proving that they had at least one night of dinner. They're basically replicating the behaviors that they learned during the Future Steps dinner program.
I like that.
That is cool.
Because, you know, it's almost like that concept of, you know, I can give a man a fish or eat for a day, but I could teach a man a fish, you know, and he'll eat for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
And what you're doing is you're giving people tools to really, you know, take themselves out of a slump. We couldn't get the videos to play. I'm upset about that, but we couldn't get the videos to play. But one of the testimonials of a young lady that was there, she was saying, I guess she was also in like a transitional kind of period. She wasn't homeless, but, you know, I guess she was coming out of a state. And one of the questions you asked her, you know, well, in one word, can you describe what OFN, what does this offer, this meal, what does this do for you? Yes. And what she said was hope.
Yes.
She said that organizations like this and what you guys are doing, it gives her hope.
Absolutely. That,
like, giving someone a meal gives them hope for a whole nother day.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's why food is something that communicates internationally. Like, no matter where you go, you could be in any country in the world, around any group of people, but when you share a meal with someone, it changes your whole scope of how you look at them. Just eating together, it's an amazing thing.
Absolutely. And it's a right to eat. It's God's given right to eat, right? That's what sustains us, right? And I love what the Bible says. So I am a Christian man. You mentioned my church affiliation earlier. And so the Bible says that it's the righteous job to go out and be concerned with the poor, right? So it's important that we take up that mantle.
Yeah.
You mentioned that $50 a day would feed 100 people. What other suggestions can you give regular common folks to help improve homelessness?
Or just food or feeding people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
What suggestions would you give us so that way we can get involved and know what is helpful to people who are homeless?
So what you may want to do, first and foremost, call Outcast Food Network and come out and volunteer with us.
Okay.
But I also ask that, so we volunteer at other organizations as well. Our Daily Bread in Baltimore City, we volunteer, right? So we're asking others to volunteer with us, so we go and volunteer with them. So that's really the first step, is to get affiliated with a particular organization, and or band together, and, you know, put a plan together and go out and do what we do as Foot Patrol and feed folks.
Yeah, like there's like a lot of programs here in D.C. Right there off of D Street. I think that's Southwest. There's a food bank over there. There's another one, I believe, off of Rhode Island Avenue, where your job or organization, fraternity, sorority, church group, there's a lot of different ways to help. And I just think people just need to, first of all, understand the need that, hey, you know, people need to eat. And a lot of times people just always assume that when you're giving out meals, that you're giving meals to homeless people, because the thought process is if they're poor or not doing well, they get food stamps. But that's not the case. A lot of these folks who get food stamps, you know, yeah, they're getting it, but there's a lot of folks that need it. They're still not getting the food stamps. They don't qualify, or they make just enough, you know, a job, just over broke. They make just enough that they don't qualify for any sustenance programs, but you broke. You're having a hard time at it. But they look at your paycheck and say, but you make $50,000 and you only have one child. Absolutely. And you're married, so you don't qualify for it. But when rent is skyrocketing, just to get a 1-bedroom in Silver Spring, you're going to drop at least $1,000 a month. And I don't think people realize how much money that is when you have, it's expensive to live in Maryland, and then car note and everything else you need to survive to have the job. It's not always enough to really feed you by the 20th of the month.
Absolutely. And one of the other challenges, so those folks that you mentioned that are getting food stamps, many times that's not enough either.
Right.
That doesn't last to the end of the month. And one of the problems with that is that, so there aren't many supermarkets in these depressed areas. And we call that's called those folks live in what they call a food desert, right? So they have to travel long way to get to a market, and so the food stamps that they would get spent at these little corner stores, which with inflated prices. So it just doesn't go as far as it could and should.
Right. I do have one quick question. What happens when it's really, really cold out and there's a lot of snow? Like, do you experience that more shelters are more packed because people are trying to get warmth? I'm just curious to know, because with some of these conditions lately, my heart goes out every time I'm at home. The first thing I always say to myself is, God, I may not have everything I want, but thank you just for a roof over my head during these cold conditions.
Yes.
So where do they go?
So if the mayor calls for a state of emergency, they do open more buildings. So there's only a certain number of beds in these shelters for the city, and many of the people that we service, they really don't even want to go to the shelters. So in the shelter environment, there's a lot of violence, theft. From what they tell me, I don't go to a shelter because of that. But when there's a state of emergency called in the city, they do open up more beds.
Okay. Yeah, and I've heard that before, that the shelter environments are pretty dangerous sometimes, or can be, rapes, assaults, stuff like that. So that's not exactly. It's like it's better than freezing, but then at the same time, it's like, man, if I could just find anything but that. Yeah, it's kind of that's like it really is a last resort, going to a shelter.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know that until I was educated on that a few years back when doing some research on that for an organization I was helping.
Yeah, and then also my friend and I, we did some homeless volunteer work. We were handing out just like some kits that we made for ourselves. And the one thing they said, it said, bring me a blanket and bring me some socks. Yes. So we said, okay. So we went back, we got blankets and socks, and they were so happy. They said, you don't know how, they were, out of anything, they were grateful for some thick, warm socks for the winter.
That's it. They say that socks is the thing that they want the most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know socks was a big thing being bundled up. We went to the Deltas, had a day of service in Silver Spring. We were there actually supporting Will Jawando, who's been on the show. And one of the things they were doing was they was putting kits together for people who were living in those kind of environments, giving them like shaving materials, things simple as toilet paper. But then blankets and socks were a big one, being bundled up and passed out to folks in need of that. And I know you guys' focus is food, but another thought process I had about that too is when people think about the cost that goes into it, or like how food stamps is not enough. I know a program they had in Tennessee. I don't know if they do it out here or they have something similar to that. It was Angel Food Care Ministries. Okay. Do you guys partner with anything like that where people can, for a lower amount of money, I think it's like $40, can buy you? They advertise it as if it's enough groceries to feed like a family of 4. For maybe 2 to 3 weeks. Do you guys partner with anything like that as well? Like those, you have to buy the food, like you have to pay the money like 3 weeks in advance. And I think what happens is they're getting the people like Tyson's and Kellogg, they're giving you the food, but then because it's not in packaging, that takes the cost down to like pennies of what it would be. Like that same Raisin Bran you buy, when you package it up in that box, that's what allows them to charge $2 for something that's really only worth like 25 cents.
Correct.
So those kind of programs, do you guys partner with anything like that, like a food buy type ministry or anything?
So I will say that my church, City of Abraham Church of Ministries, where the pastor is Charles Richard Yerby, we used to be a part of what they call the food co-op, which is exactly what you're speaking of.
Cool.
Okay.
We would take the orders. Great, take the money, deliver the money, bring the food, and then again, like you said, a couple weeks later when the food comes, then the folks would come and pick the food up. They would come and get a burlap bag, way tall, and full of food, poultry, fish, and all kinds of fresh vegetables. So that is absolutely a great program. What I will share with you is that what we are looking forward to in the future with Outcast Food Network is opening up our own food pantry, which is a little different, but we do want to be able to provide bags of food as well for the community.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. I have a guy that I work with at my job. He does that. One of his big things is donating to those food. It's like a food pantry, and people don't
realize. What's down in DC? I can't even think of their name. They're really big. People line up right there at that organization to get free food. That's it. Thank you. Yes, it's called DC Kitchen. Yes.
Yeah. So
they're huge.
Yeah, and I think I think it's important, and people don't realize that food is such a big thing out there. We're always focused on just not having a roof over your head, but there are people living in dire straits, and they have a roof over their head. They actually have some clothes on their back. Maybe not the Jordans they want, but they have something. But they're hungry. I mean, they're literally not eating, and I think people don't realize that. You go to these food banks, and there's always lines around the corner. People trying to just get what they can. I know a lot of the schools in Montgomery County, they do a biannual food bank where you can actually go up there and get free groceries and stuff. And it's open to the whole community. You don't have to be, poor or anything, but you'll be surprised how many families out there is like, man, if I could just get a sack of potatoes. Yes. Potatoes, you can stretch potatoes out far. There's so many things you could do with it. It's like bubble gum when he's talking about shrimp. Potatoes, they do wonders when you need things,
And I think he touched on something earlier about, just having that care for people, because it's one thing to donate money. It's one thing to do your one day of service. And I did it and post the pictures. But I think with people who are in a state of hopelessness, it's when you keep coming back. They keep seeing your face. You keep pouring into them. Then they feel like, I don't want to let myself down, but I don't want to let you down because you actually believe in me. You actually spoke life into me. Yes. So I think we need to have a mindset of really helping our community members and making it more than just a day of service, but making it a routine thing where we are really out in the community and making it the thing that I care for you because we come from the same lineage and I want to see you do well.
Yes. And one thing I'll share, and that's kind of how we operate our program. So as I mentioned earlier, we volunteer a lot over the years, but what I recognize is that I noticed these organizations just giving the food and walking away. No conversation, no camaraderie. So what we do, we give them the food. We have our tables set up, but we also have folks walking out amongst the people, just talking to them, right? Soliciting their stories, man. And what happens is once they give their stories through these testimonials, what you don't see on the camera is that we do offer them prayer. Some take it, some don't. But once they've given off their stories, now they're open, they've softened up, man. And so then it ends up really being a powerful communication between us and the community. And man, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you guys are you're realistically using the food as a tool of ministry to get to a deeper issue, or to the soul of the person, not to just the stomach of the person.
Yes.
And it's ministry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love that. It's genuinely ministry.
Absolutely. And on our brochures, we talk about feeding their natural and their spirit man.
I love that.
So not only are we bringing them food, but we also want to share with them the bread of life.
Now, are you guys cooking this food yourself or preparing it, or are you working with a group that's like cooking this food in large for you guys?
So in the beginning, we were cooking it ourselves.
Okay.
Thankfully, we've just gotten.
Yeah, but
so
y'all was wearing that stove out, huh?
Yes, man. So we've got
Mama was over there doing all the work, huh?
Yes, she was doing an awesome
You were just
job.
tasting. Oh, that's it.
Man, it's good too.
Yeah,
it's good. But man, we've gotten so many supporters. We've got Wendy's. Matter of fact, when we had a feeding on yesterday, and that's where the testimonials were from. And Wendy's supplied the food.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yes. And I said, the fast food business is doing it, because we also have Chick-fil-A, Papa John's, and Chick-fil-A, Papa John's, and Subway that have committed to help. So
wow, that's
I'm
cool.
excited.
And that's a win-win for everybody. For one, I mean, it's branding, obviously, for them. It's a tax write-off. Obviously, they have so much money set aside for charitable giving. But then, for you guys, it takes the weight off your shoulders to, and allows you to do more when you're getting that kind of support.
Absolutely. And when you are a nonprofit, right? It's nonprofit. So you either need somebody to donate the food or to donate money, right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm so thankful that, as I mentioned, those 4 companies have come forward to donate.
And then donating is a tax write-off.
Absolutely.
Now, we're about to be out of time. We got like a minute left. So what I want you to do is, can you tell people where they could find Outcast Food Network, where they could come volunteer, or just who they should contact if they want to come in Baltimore and do a feeding with you guys?
Absolutely. So they can find us on Facebook, Outcast Food Network on Facebook, also on Givelify, through the Givelify app, Outcast Food Network. Okay. Soon to come, outcastfoodnetwork.org, our website. Okay. And they also can call 410-409-7568.
Okay, all right. I like that. And that's cool that you guys use Givelify. I actually use that at my church. Reed Temple, we use Givelify. It makes it so easy to just tap on it. My bank card's already there. It's safe. It's secure. And they actually, in Givelify, will give you a recording of all your giving. So even if you lost track of how much you've given to OFN, doesn't matter. Givelify will track all that for you.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. Yeah, I like that. Well, look, it's been great having you on the show. This has been a great conversation. I can't wait to push this out for more people to see it. Katrina, can you tell people where they can find the Nitty Gritty Show at so they can, see this information later?
You guys can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Nitty Gritty Show, and we are also on Twitter at nitty_gritty_TBJ.
All right, look, so it's been another great show. Also, like to remind people out there, not only will we come out and support, we'll be coming out to support with you guys soon, do a feeding real soon, the Nitty Gritty. But also the Nitty Gritty, for all of our viewers out there, we have a lot of people doing a lot of great work. Folks out here who have businesses. If you guys want us to come out, spend some time with you, do some stuff with you, Nitty Gritty, we'll be happy to kick it. We've hung out with a number of campaigns and another volunteer events, been at a lot of events around the city already. So if you want the Nitty Gritty to come to your school, your business, whatever, even your barbershop, I'll come out there. I don't know if I might let you touch my head, but I'll kick it with you. So, hey, hit us up, the Nitty Gritty Show. Lawrence, once again, thank you for coming out, sir. It's been a huge blessing to have you and to talk about the work you're doing. May God be with you guys and everything that you're going to be doing going forward. I think 2018 is going to be a great year for OFN.
It absolutely is going to be a great year, and it was great to be here with you guys as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, it's your boy, Jay DeCosta.
It's your girl, Katniss.
The one and only Tay Jordan can't be here, but we love you, boo, and together we are
the Nitty Gritty.
Look, we out. Jay, sign us out of here, man. We good. Go Grammys. Go Kendrick. Go 444. You know how it is.